the text line. The 512, I could see perhaps Arkansas and Nebraska being interested. No. They're not interested now, although they might be disgruntled at times. They're not interested now. They're making a bucket load of money themselves. Money was the reason we talked about, right? Nebraska's making a lot of money to get their teeth kicked in, but they would be getting their teeth kicked in most any conference right now with where their football program is. Arkansas, maybe at times, I miss them, but they're making a ton of money as well.
Yeah, okay. No one in the SEC or Big Ten is leaving the SEC or Big Ten.
No.
no one is going to go into the uncharted waters of like a new look Big 12 that has already been dysfunctional for 20 years and then going to hold on. It's not going to happen that way, but it's a nice thought. There's a long time, even with Texas and Oklahoma in the mix, that Arkansas would maybe get, say like, well, we're not competing enough, but that money and that prestige and the TV time and all that, they're not leaving the SEC.
Let's just put it this way. To simplify it for everybody who wants to ask that question, if Texas and OU did leave, nobody's coming to the Big 12 from
and
a Power 5.
And there may not be a Big 12.
Yeah. The Big 12 would have to go out or bring people, like the Big 12 would have to draft people up, like SMU, Houston, UCF, Memphis, and Cincinnati, or they would have to dissipate. And because you're not going to call the ACC and be like, hey, why wouldn't they want to come here? Like, no. The ACC also, in addition to their grant of rights, there's a $50 million penalty. So, like, they have a double whammy because when the Big 12 was breaking up, they had the same problem. They had the same problem.
Well, Texas has been rumored for the ACC for a while. I know that's been a lot of chatter, and I think this might not be necessarily a preemptive move for those two to the SEC, although I think Oklahoma would be a safe bet. But I think maybe it's just, the water, starting to get deeper as far as, maybe this isn't the SEC, but ultimately an ACC move for Texas in the long run, or ultimately a Pac-12 move for Texas and Oklahoma in the long run. The Pac-12 commissioner is brand new. He's already come out today with a tweet saying, basically along the lines of, like, I picked a really interesting time to start the job. So he's already making light of it. I think the Pac-12, the ACC, don't rule them out as far as if they see the Big 12's vulnerable and they want to come pluck a couple of teams away. But what would be interesting is the fallout, not even so much if Texas and Oklahoma left. I mean, that's the Kickstarter. That's where it all begins, and then you kind of review the pieces and go from there to put the puzzle back together. But who else comes poaching along and saying, okay, well, the Big 12's vulnerable. Well, I'm going to go grab Oklahoma State and Kansas and bring them into the Pac-12 or whatever, and then all of a sudden the Big 12 is 6 teams remaining. And then,
other than Texas and Oklahoma, and Texas Tech has always kind of wanted to ride on that same plane with Texas and Oklahoma State OU, and there might even be state laws or whatever politics involved there. Kansas has their basketball team. Baylor just won the national title. But with all due respect, anybody that's left other than those two really have value to where another conference comes and gets you that's an autonomy 5?
Well, a Tech fan will jump up and probably say baseball's really good, but that doesn't really matter. That doesn't matter at all.
And I'm not trying to downgrade any school.
It just doesn't
I know
matter.
It's maybe a free-for-all, but Colorado got invited. But then again,
But that made sense regionally.
And okay.
They already had, like, the thing about bringing Colorado in is the Pac-12, they're right there. I mean, so what,
and there was
what happened? West Virginia would probably garner some interest from the ACC because they're on the Atlantic coast,
see that.
So,
all right.
But those are things that would happen. We had a couple calls here.
979. It's about the NIL. They need to attract more money for the players. Period. That's from one of the texts we received.
I certainly think NIL comes into play, and we haven't brought it up at all, but I do think that's probably some of the thought process.
All right, let's go to, that's just one. TJ, if Texas concerned themselves more, this is from a UT fan, concerned themselves more with winning football as much as they do wanting to get in a damn headline, they'd be golden. For a UT fan, it's exhausting. That's from TJ. Matt in D.C., no team can leave. You mentioned the TV contract 2025, and the ACC has theirs, and so there's a lot of those granted rights, and we're going to get to some more as well.
Yeah, the Cowboy or the Longhorns can be very Cowboys in nature in that way, as far as the headlines and stuff, and maybe a little bit of the underachieving. But there's no doubt who's got the power, and they're one of two that has it. And so if they want to make the big boy move, then you know what? It would be very interesting to see.
And that from Hunter Godwin, excuse me, he said it's all about recruiting, and which is something that, again, these two teams, programs, they get amazing recruits now, and if perhaps they're up a notch or 2 or 3 or 5 or a different conference, the SEC, and the schedule gets better, perhaps that makes a difference. But those two pretty much get who they want. Not always, but they get pretty much who they want.
Jerome, you're on Sikkim 365 Radio. Thanks for your call.
Yes, how you doing?
We're doing great, Jerome. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm a Oklahoma fan, and I'm wondering, where did you get this story that they want to try to leave the Big 12?
It is Brett Zwerneman from the Houston Chronicle has reported that a high-ranking NCAA official has told him that this is a possibility. Now, no one has come out. There's been a lot of non-denial denials, and no one's confirmed or denied it, and they've had almost 3 hours now to do so.
Okay, what hurts me is I know when Texas first got all this money that they made with this contract deal, that's what caused the league to break up. And people left because they wasn't going to share none of the funds with nobody else. It was at that time that I know Oklahoma stepped in and did what they had to do to keep the Big 12 alive and keep it just like it is. So from my point of view, they would never walk away from it.
Jerome,
not when they did their best to keep it together.
Jerome, let me ask you this. Oklahoma in the SEC, sure. If that happens, are you ready to possibly have a couple of extra hickeys a year on your schedule?
Yeah, but it's not going to happen.
Okay.
They're going to stay in the Big 12. I don't care what the source is. They did too much to keep it together, man.
All right, buddy. Thanks for your call.
Jerome.
Thank you for listening.
And Jerome,
welcome.
I hope you're right. I do. I just don't. I mean, while it would be exciting to me, it would be exciting for a minute. It just then what happens to there's this whole great football.
Well, we have to understand that Texas and Oklahoma don't care about everybody else.
No,
they only care about themselves, and I'm not slighting them for that, but that's the honest to God truth. They are not in any way, shape, or form worried about Baylor or TCU or West Virginia. I think Oklahoma politically has to kind of worry somewhat about Oklahoma State, although I don't know that they're necessarily tied at the hip to where, obviously Oklahoma State's not getting an automatic berth in the SEC if Oklahoma moves. But, there have been political ties there in the past. I'm with you. I don't want to see the Big 12 break up. I've been wanting them to add teams now for a while and actually, live up to their name of being 12. But, yeah, it could go either way right now based on all that we're reading today. It would be great to know what the future looks like because I'm very curious now with all these moving parts.
Jace Hooper on YouTube. Why would Texas share the money from the Longhorn Network with anyone else?
That's my question.
Do you think they're going to have how long is that? How long is the Longhorn
Network? I think it was a 20-year contract.
And that's
it's probably coming up pretty soon, I would think.
You would think, and I don't know. I'm not going to say this because I don't know what they get. I don't know the numbers. I don't know the revenue that ESPN
Maybe it was 15
gets.
years, but
if that's coming up, are you looking for some other revenue to replace that if that's gone in a way?
But the SEC is tied in with ESPN, which is what the Longhorn Network is tied into. So, maybe there's a concession there. Those are the things that are being talked about right now for whoever is actually involved in these conversations. I do believe they're legitimately happening. But, if there is backdoor conversation, I'm sure the Longhorn Network is a big topic, I would think.
All right. We've got Drew calling us from the 979. Drew, you're on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing great.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you guys for putting this show on. I am a Texas A&M graduate, so I say that because I really respect Baylor and what they've done. I think the SEC would benefit by actually including Baylor as well as OU and Texas in the SEC. Now, that being said, UT, I think, is the team that is probably driving this more than Oklahoma. And I just want to know what you think about that. Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
Maybe so. I
think that they've been, I just think that they're more out there about it. Like, I don't think Texas really tries to hide their interest in leaving, and I don't think Oklahoma really does either. There's been comments here and there over the last couple of years from them. They certainly know who they are. These two schools, are just on separate footing. But, as far as more of a push, I could definitely see it being more a Texas push than an Oklahoma push. But I don't know for sure on that because I don't think Oklahoma's been all that hesitant to look around either. So I think they're maybe on equal footing as far as looking, but maybe one of them is more of a driver. And I would think that in this case it probably would be Texas, but yeah, I don't know for sure.
The rhetoric from, both Texas and Texas A&M over this decade about why they're not playing and one of them left, and if if Texas goes to the SEC, everything that Texas has ever said about it is a lie. It's not a lie, but it was just to make themselves look better. It wasn't about anything else. And it just makes them look kind of ridiculous when they spat at A&M on the way out the door and then tried to completely divorce themselves from the responsibility of what it was and got Baylor and Kansas State and Iowa State all together trying to sue A&M. And here Texas we didn't do it. Wasn't our choice. And here they are doing the same thing.
Well, it's no different than a big money politician or a big money celebrity. The rules are different, right? So if you're Texas, I don't think you're really worried about how you might look. You're just looking at what's going to benefit you the most, even if you look a little stupid for, the Big 12, SEC, A&M stuff. But if you ultimately get what you want in the end, you'll have a little pie in your face and not worry about it too much.
Yeah, it's the senator going, this bill was rushed. Well, we're not going to vote on it. And then their bill gets rushed and we're voting on this.
Oh, yeah, totally different.
I want to say
Apples
this
and
about
oranges.
Texas because they do get, and a lot of times, a lot of people just don't like them. And part of it's the entitlement of the fans or maybe some arrogance or whatever. And sometimes they've even said it. The Lost Dodds made it clear. We are the Joneses. And there has been some of that. They've earned part of that too. I don't know who started this, where it started, if it's true or not. But one of the things, they really don't give a damn what most people think. And then again, they really do.
Yeah.
How people perceive them in many ways.
Well, I need to read this one quote. There's not much to this. What's happening a lot today is people seeing statements and just reading into them as much as possible. Like, he didn't say this. So, for example, Oklahoma has released a statement on today's rumors. And they said simply, the college athletics landscape is shifting constantly. We don't address every anonymous rumor. So you can take that how you want. Pete Thamel took that as, hey, they didn't mention the Big 12 in that statement. So, you can see whatever you want to see basically with a lot of these statements, but there's not any new information seemingly coming out.
All right, one more call, and then we do have to go to break to get to John Machota. Desmond from Baton Rouge, you're on SicEm 365
Go
Radio.
Tigers. Hey, Desmond.
Good morning. Hey, yeah, go Tigers. Well, from what I see and what I've noticed, because I'm in SEC country, I remember when there was that alignment they was doing again with the ACC, where Florida State was trying to get into the SEC. However, Florida blocked that. And I think that's the same thing that's going to happen with Texas. Texas A&M is in, and they're going to block it.
Yeah, if Florida could pull it off, and a little more back, so Florida State initially was invited to join either the ACC or the SEC when they were an independent.
Thanks for the call, by the way.
Thanks for the
thank
call.
you.
And Bobby Bowden very wisely said, look, I'm trying to build a dynasty here. Let's go to the ACC because we can win that thing every year. And that's what they did from the first 12 or so years they were in the league, maybe 15. They just won it every year. And then when the ACC looked like it was going to break up when the Big 12 did, Florida State started looking at the SEC because that's the best landing spot for them. And Florida was like, no, you had your chance, get out. And A&M should probably do the same thing with Texas.
Yeah, I just don't know that A&M has that power.
Yeah.
There's 13 other teams in that conference, and if they say, all right, on the one hand, A&M's upset, but guess what? They're not going to leave. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to threaten? Hey, we'll leave the SEC. Okay, bye. We'll replace you with Texas and Oklahoma and not skip a beat. So they don't really have any sway other than the fact they've been a member for a few years, and that's really it. I do think that they would, to your point, certainly throw a little bit of a fit and try to put up a little bit of a fight, but I think if, you're A&M and you do that, that's fine. But if Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and Florida and all these other schools are like, hey, we can bring in another brand, if not two like ours, and be like these super of super conferences, then it doesn't really matter what A&M thinks, quite frankly, in the long run.
Yeah, I wonder who would vote along what lines, because I would think that because of the recruiting alone, LSU might jump in with Texas.
Well, yeah, and here's another thing. But here's another thing. The LSU, they always got somebody or two from Texas.
Yeah.
Alabama would always get one or two from Texas. Now it seems like they're getting maybe 3 to 5. It depends on the year. We're seeing the other schools in the SEC. Florida on occasions come in and gotten a player or two. If you're a part of the SEC and you then invite two of the programs that do a really good job of recruiting in Texas, are you not cutting off your pipeline to Texas?
No, I don't think you're cutting off your pipeline to Texas as much as you are now opening the door into your pipeline.
For them to come into Florida, which, of course, Georgia and Florida and Louisiana, Texas can go into Louisiana.
I'd be more concerned about that because they've been doing that anyway. But the one thing, and because especially Texas schools we're only recruiting in Texas. But now if Texas is going to play games in the state of Florida, I mean, like...
Hey, here's one of the other things. Oklahoma, I just had a text from somebody that said, well, Oklahoma, they got Texas. Oklahoma is and has been now for a while a national recruiting school. Texas can go national too, and they do. But Oklahoma changed a lot of their philosophy. It doesn't mean they're not going after the high-level guys that are in the state of Texas, but it's not like when they had to raid Texas. And as you said yesterday, people that come into Texas, because there's so much talent no matter where you are. If you're in a smaller state, if you're a place like Oklahoma, you get guys from San Diego, you get guys from Philadelphia, you get it all over the place. So they're going to recruit nationally no matter where they are. Man, I tell you what.
I got something I want to pass along here.
Then do it.
Okay. Yeah. Oklahoma State University statement. We have heard unconfirmed reports that OU and UT approached Southeastern Conference officials about joining the SEC. We are gathering information and will monitor closely. If true, we would be gravely disappointed. While we place a premium on history, loyalty, and trust, be assured we will aggressively defend and advance what is best for Oklahoma State and our strong athletic program, which continues to excel in the Big 12 and nationally. So you look at OU's basically, they didn't mention the Big 12, which a lot of people jumped on, and they just kind of said, we're not responding to unfounded rumors, whereas Oklahoma State mentioned the Big 12, mentioned the SEC, mentioned UT and OU, mentioned all of that. So there's their official statement out of Stillwater.
All right, here's Scott Robalai, who covers LSU. I think what Oklahoma State would love to have said is those bastards and left it at that.
Basically.
Because Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, they rely on a little bit of that, like when you see someone swimming in an animal in the ocean and there's one on top. And with all due respect, they almost have to because of the connections. And Baylor and Iowa State, and sometimes they're left out on that as well. When we come back, what a run it's been on this day when we've talked quite a bit about what could be different in college football. And again, it might mean nothing, even if there is smoke, maybe even some fire. And my goodness, it's something we'll follow for quite some time. Today, the Cowboys started training camp